Good evening, America, and welcome back to Tyler Carlin Tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, this show is your unyielding beacon of truth in a world smothered by lies and manufactured narratives. Tonight, we peel back the layers of deception to reveal the very foundation of our democracy. A democracy under assault by those who claim to serve you, but in reality have long forgotten what it means to serve the people. Let's be clear. We live in an era where institutions meant to protect our freedoms are being subverted by an elite cabal of billionaire puppet masters and their cronies in power. And if you still believe that wealth equals wisdom, just spend a few moments listening to the ramblings of those who have you worship their every word. Elon took to Twitter writing, "If any judge anywhere can stop every presidential action everywhere, we don't live in a democracy." Yes, you heard that right. The very same pundits who claim to know what's best for you are busy rewriting the rules of democracy as if it were a rigged game. And while the pundits insist you'll eat what's for dinner and not ask too many questions, I ask, isn't it high time we began questioning whose dinner is really being served? Who's being crowned the tyrant of our collective destiny? No longer will we stand silent as our future is bartered away like scraps on a political scorched marketplace. And while they peddle their half-truths and false promises, the courts, our last line of defense, rise as the true champions of democracy, blocking every illegal, corrupt, unconstitutional act perpetrated all in the name of power. Now, the establishment has perfected the art of silence. They expect you to consume their narrative without any question. But remember, my friends, you'll eat what's for dinner and not ask any questions if you let them. They want a compliant populace, one that swallows every spoonful of their ideological poison without a second thought. But here's the stark reality. Our nation is far too precious to allow itself to be reduced to a mindless consumer of propaganda. Consider the recent actions of our judiciary. In an unprecedented move, judges nationwide have been issuing temporary restraining orders to halt the reckless overreach of the executive branch. These judicial warriors are not anti-democratic. They're the very defenders of our constitutional order. They're saying that enough is enough. We will not stand by and stand back while our democracy is hijacked by lawless administrations and billionaire handlers. Brian Tyler Cohen did an interview with Congressman Garcia, who recently put it perfectly. Watch.
Congressman, what do you think Republicans would say if a Democratic president was in office right now and basically gave George Soros unfettered access to pilfer all of our federal agencies?
I mean insane. I think if Joe Biden or Barack Obama brought in the richest person on the planet, or George Soros or anyone else, and it just allowed them to do whatever they wanted, with our information, they would be going ballistic. They'd probably be attacking the Capitol again multiple times. And so these folks are, besides being completely, in my opinion, insane in the way they're viewing the world, they are serious about destroying our institutions and our democracy. They want to fundamentally change not just the United States, but they want to change the world in the way they view it. Their view of the world, their view of our country is one where you take care of yourself and your family and screw everybody else. And that's a conservative principle that I just cannot support. I think what makes Democrats being progressive, I think the right way forward for us as a world and country is that we believe in taking care of those that need help the most. Yeah. That government is in place to help people. And that's something that unfortunately we're not at right now in our country.
What we're witnessing is a battle not just for the soul of our government, but for the soul of America itself. Every time a judge steps in to block an overreach, be it the freeze on critical funding, the ban on birthright citizenship, or the unchecked access to sensitive financial data, it is a blow struck against those who would see our nation dismantled piece by piece. The so-called critics of this judicial intervention are too busy parroting the tired mantras of their masters to notice that what they're demanding and defending is nothing more than a sham, a grotesque distortion of democracy, where power is a commodity, traded and bartered like any other. And let's not ignore the elephant in the room. The manipulation of information, when the powerful whisper that any judge who dares block the whims of an administration is undermining the will of the people, they're not defending the public. They're defending a system rigged in favor of the rich and ruthless. They preach that any interference with their agenda is anti-democratic, yet they conveniently forget that true democracy is built on accountability, transparency, and the courage to question authority. This brings us to the core of the issue. Our democracy is in peril because we have allowed the very instruments meant to safeguard it to be twisted into tools of oppression. The battle lines are drawn between those who believe in a government that serves its people and those who believe that power is best wielded by those who can afford to buy influence. And in this crucible of conflict, the judiciary stands as the last bastion of hope, a hope that flickers in the hearts of those who dare to demand more than just empty rhetoric and manipulated polls. And now, my fellow patriots, consider the grotesque irony. While the administration and its billionaire backers clamor for absolute power, they are simultaneously terrified of what a judiciary that holds them accountable looks like. Their protestations, their frantic attempts to reframe the narrative, all betray a deep-seated fear of truth. It warns us that any judge anywhere can block a presidential action, then we do not live in a democracy. But the truth is, my friends, this is precisely what a democracy should be. A system where no one is above the law, not even those in the highest echelons of power. And it's not just about the abuse of power, but the erosion of our collective soul. In a land where you're expected to ingest every line of propaganda without a second of thought, the act of questioning becomes an act of rebellion. Yet they preach that you must simply accept what is served to you and that you'll eat what's for dinner and not ask any questions. But I say, it's high time we stopped being passive consumers and started demanding an honest discourse, one that respects our intelligence and our right to know the truth. We must remember that our courts are not the enemy. They are the very embodiment of the rule of law, a system designed to keep the powerful in check. And when a judge in Manhattan extends a restraining order to block unauthorized access to our nation's treasury data, it is not an act of obstruction, but it is an act of protection. Protection of our democracy from those who would dare to dismantle it piece by piece in their relentless pursuit of profit and power. And then there are those who want to rewrite history, a history written by the sweat and sacrifice of those who believed in a brighter, fairer future. They would have us believe that the theft of our rights, the undermining of our institutions, and it's the natural order of things. But that is not the truth. The truth is that every act of defiance by our judiciary, every court order that halts the march of tyranny, is a beacon of hope for every citizen who refuses to accept a future dictated by greed and corruption. And as more judges move to rein in the executive branch's overreach, the more that they're going to do to agitate, lash out, and even refuse to follow court orders altogether. And Elon is doing his very best to normalize this type of behavior. He took to Twitter, writing federal judges who repeatedly abuse their authority to obstruct the will of the people via their elected representatives should be impeached. In other words, if you dare try to enforce the law, then you're the problem and not the wannabe dictator. Elon's goal is to normalize the idea of retaliating against judges who rightfully strike down illegal orders that don't comport with political agenda of this White House. That is the definition of anti-democratic behavior, all of which leads us to a brink of a constitutional crisis. I ask you, what kind of future do we want to build? One where the wealthy few continue to manipulate the system at the expense of the many? Or one where justice prevails over the forces of unbridled ambition? The answer is clear. We must stand united in defense of a democracy that values every voice, that sees every vote as sacred, and that refuses to let the corridors of power be monopolized by select, self-serving elite. And so, as we face these challenges head-on, I urge you not to only listen, but to act. Let my words echo into your mind. To my critics, I'm not a demagogue. I'm a defender of democracy. These words aren't just rhetoric. They are a rallying cry for every American who believes in the possibility of a government that truly reflects the will of its people rather than the interests of a corrupt few. Tonight, we stand at the crossroads of history. On one side lies the promise of a renewed America, where a nation where truth is not sacrificed at the altar of expedience, where justice is not a commodity to be bartered away by those with deep pockets. On the other, a dystopian future crafted by the very forces that have long strived to silence dissent and squash the spirit of the people. The choice is ours to make. Remember this. Do not be fooled when the powerful tell you to swallow their lies and accept a reality meticulously engineered for their benefit. Do not let them sedate you with promises of security and order while they dismantle the very institutions to protect our freedoms. Instead, question every narrative. challenge every assumption, and never ever allow yourself to be silenced. Because in the end, if you let them dictate what you consume, if you simply eat what's for dinner without asking any questions, then you are complicit in the erosion of our liberty. And as the battle for the soul of our nation rages on, let us be the voices that refuse to be drowned out by the cacophony of deceit. Let us be defenders of a democracy that stands as a testament to the enduring spirit of the American people, a spirit that will not be shackled by the chains of corruption and greed. Our courts, our institutions, and the way of American life depend on it. So, my fellow patriots, as I close this chapter tonight, I leave you with a challenge. Rise up, question boldly, and never settle for a half-truth. The revolution is not coming. It's already here. And if you want to be part of this historic movement and see more fearless commentary and uncompromised truth, do not hesitate. Subscribe to my channel right now and join the fight. Let's hit the 1,000 subscriber mark by the end of February and show the world that the power of the people can and will prevail. Thank you for standing with me. Good night, and may truth and justice guide our path forward.